It's time for our first drives with Fred, and today I am driving another four-wheel drive Quigley van. I've driven a couple of these over the years. I really dig them, and I've always wanted to drive one with the new 6.6 liter gas V8 engine. This van has 400 horsepower. Quigley needs this van delivered to Fresno, California, and I volunteered. I've hopped in it a couple days ago in Pennsylvania, and I'm driving cross country. Where am I today? Well, maybe this will give you a hint. Have you ever seen this crazy sculpture before? This is right outside of Green River. And if you've ever driven to Moab, Utah on I-70, which is right there, then you've probably seen this thing. And did you know you can stop and do a little bit of four-wheeling and get up to it? It's pretty massive. It's pretty wild. Let's check it out. Look at this thing. So the story is that there was some eccentric millionaire that owned all this land outside of Green River, Utah, and he hired an artist to assemble this thing on his property. And then when he passed away, he donated it to the city of Green River, which is kind of a funky little town. It's like this little town right outside of Moab, Utah, and it's right off of I-70. There's not a whole lot going on here. There's like a couple gas stations, a couple hotels, but they're having kind of a revitalization. There's a whole group of people that are trying to clean up the town and make it really cool and do cool stuff. And I thought I would stop and check out this big, cool sculpture because I'm driving this four-wheel drive van and I needed to at least get it in the dirt, at least a little bit. I've been spending the past 2 or 3 days driving 10-hour days just trying to get it across America, and I needed a break, so I stopped to check it out. So a lot of times when I go on these trips, I like to stash stuff. So what I have in this van, pop the door open here, is somewhere in here, there it is. Here's a box. See this box with the Quigley sticker? So I'm going to put this thing up on the sculpture here. We'll just kind of stash it maybe right there. Will it stay? I think it'll stay there. All right, see that? So now what I do is I get on social media, get on my Instagram page, and I like show people pictures and tell them to go find it. This thing's got like some hats and t-shirts, stickers and stuff in it from Quigley, and I've been stashing them all over America. It's kind of a fun thing to do because it gets people to follow along on my adventures, but it also gets people some cool stuff if they want a hat or a t-shirt, as a lot of people do. So I am going to get on the road and hopefully somebody will find it. Driving this van for over 2,500 miles. It's Saturday and I left Pennsylvania on Wednesday and I just got into the state of California. 4 days to drive across America in this thing. The reason I wanted to drive this van is because it has a 6.6 liter gas V8. This is not the Duramax that they used to put in the Chevy Express van. This is the latest V8 heavy-duty gas engine that they put in the Chevy and GMC 3/4 and 1-ton trucks. They started installing these in the vans in about 2021. I guess that engine was introduced in 2020 in the pickup trucks. And I've driven the vans before. I've worked with Quigley in the past and I got to drive there's a diesel version that you can get. So basically right now you can get this van with a 4.3 liter gas V6, which is a cool engine. It's an all aluminum V6. You can get it with a 2.8 liter diesel, which is a little 4-cylinder diesel, and you can get it with the 6.6 liter gas V8, the big version. I drove the diesel thinking it would be my perfect van, and I realized it doesn't do what I want a van to do. I was looking for a van that I could take build it out as like a camping overland type of rig, but it also has to be a tow rig, because a lot of times I want to take a Jeep or one of my flat fenders or rock crawlers and go to places where I can camp out in the van and also go four-wheeling, and the little diesel just is not right for a tow rig. It's great if you just want to do the van life thing and not tow a vehicle with you, but I'm always towing something. I'm always dragging a trailer. I'm always buying project vehicles that I really don't need, and as much as I thought the little 2.8 would be perfect for that, it really just wasn't enough power to do the type of towing that I want to do. So I've been looking for an opportunity to drive one of these gas V8s, the 6.6, and I was back in Pennsylvania for a big family get-together, and Quigley had one that they needed delivered from Pennsylvania to California, and I was like, I'll drive it. So I got on the road Wednesday, and I've been on the road for basically 4 days, and it's averaging right about 13.5 miles per gallon. I mean, not great, but this is also a big V8 engine. It's basically a big empty box. As you can see behind me, there's nothing from the driver and passenger seat on back. There's no insulation on the roof. There's no insulation on the sides, and it's really, really pretty loud in here. That being said, I'm not using my normal microphones because I thought it would kind of convey just how noisy it is in this thing. But it doesn't have a very loud exhaust, which I think it could have more of an exhaust, and you can definitely insulate all of the back of this. In fact, the whole reason that this van is going from Pennsylvania to California is because I'm going to deliver it to Field Van, which is a company that will outfit the van. They'll build out the back of it, and then Quigley will use this as kind of a show vehicle for their company. Mostly what Quigley does is convert vans to four-wheel drive. So this van has basically a factory style transfer case, factory style pickup truck style independent front suspension, and they work with brand new vans or with slightly used vans. So if you have a van in like the 60 to 80,000 miles or less, and it's a newer van, you can send it to Quigley and they will modify it and make it four-wheel drive for you. They are very particular. They want to make sure that they're not starting with kind of a rusty pile to convert it into four-wheel drive. So I wanted to drive the V8, and I wasn't really sure how it was going to work compared to the diesel, but was it just going to be a big gas hog, or was it actually going to be fun to drive? The nice thing about this van is you can spend a lot more time in the left lane and pass people on hills. This thing has 400 horsepower, about 460, 470 pound-feet of torque, which if you compare that to other vans, particularly the Sprinter van, which is hugely popular in like the overlanding crowd, that van, the Sprinter, has I think 180 horsepower. So more than double the horsepower of a Sprinter van. I think the Sprinter has 300 and some pound-feet of torque because it has a diesel, where this has over 400 pound-feet of torque. So it's definitely a more capable, powerful vehicle than the Sprinter van. This thing also only probably weighs about 6,000 pounds right now. It doesn't have windows in the back. It only has 3 windows, a windshield and the driver and passenger side window. So there's no windows in the back. If I was starting with a van like this, I would definitely put more windows in the back. And the cool thing is when you order a van, if you order a van directly from the factory, you can specify all of those things. You can get a passenger van with lots of windows. You can get a cargo van and add a couple windows. You can put windows just in the back door. You can put windows in the side and not this side. So vans have the ability to be ordered with a plethora of upgrades. It's like base model all the way up through super extravagant, depending on if you are going with a passenger van or some sort of conversion van where it's been built out. Plus, there's so many companies in the aftermarket now that are offering upgrades for vans, such as Field, where this is going. So this van has 35-inch BFG tires on method wheels. It has a little bit of a suspension to allow for everything to clear. It also has a lot of Quigley's aftermarket body armor. So there's like rock rails on either side, has their front and rear bumpers, and unfortunately a van like this is probably going to end up costing close to $80,000, if not a little bit more, depending on what upgrades you get added to it. And then that's not even before you get the back built out. Like the back half will probably be another $80,000 or $100,000, depending on how extravagant you get in the back. Right now there's like a rubber floor mat that has a little bit of cushion. You could hypothetically just camp out on this thing just the way it is, and then over time build up the rear. There's a lot of different companies that are offering upgrades. Most of the aftermarket seems to be angled towards the Sprinter van, which is a great van, but I think in my case I would want a vehicle that I could tow as well as go overlanding and exploring. It's not that the Sprinter can't tow, it's just that I think that having a 3/4 ton van, or in this case it's a Express 3500, so it's a 1-ton van, just gives you a little bit more security. You can add a trailer brake controller to it. You can add a big old trailer hitch on the back. Plus, being that it's a Chevrolet, you can find parts for it at just about any auto parts store across America. And they've been making this van, this body style, since 1995. It's almost a 30-year-old body style. So there are a couple of things in it that are a little bit long in the tooth. The interior's not really flashy. The seats are just basic vinyl high backs. But, oh, and here's the other thing. This van, somebody put a trailer brake controller in it, and when they did this, like this van was actually purchased used and then modified with like 2,500 miles, modified to be 4-wheel drive. And somebody in the prior owner put a trailer brake controller in, and when they did that, they messed with the brake. They messed with the brake sensor. So there's a brake pedal sensor that needs to be working properly in order for the cruise control to work. So this thing has had no cruise control on my cross-country trip. Some people don't like cruise control. I'm a big fan of it, especially as I get older. I like to be able to set cruise control and kind of move my legs around and flex a little bit while I'm running down the highway. Because of the way the van is set up, the seats, like when you sit in a van seat, you're not like in a Toyota where you're like right on the floor. You're basically sitting in a chair. And so even though I've had zero cruise control for a 4-day road trip, I have not had my legs cramp up. The thing seems to run down the road just fine. And it's actually pretty comfortable, even in pretty much the base model seat. This isn't power, this isn't adjustable other than front and back and a little bit of recline. So it's kind of interesting how basic you can still get a van. And in fact, if you've driven a lot of newer vehicles and you've gotten to try a lot of the new vehicle amenities, if you got into a van, you'd be like, holy moly, this is like a van from the 1990s. And that's because it basically is. They haven't really changed much since then. There is a backup camera on this van. The screen for the backup camera is integrated into the rear view mirror, and it's so small that they might as well not have it, other than the fact that this van has 0 windows in the back. So basically when you drive this, you're just using your side view mirrors. So curb weight on a Chevy Express van, passenger van, would be about 6,500 pounds, which would have all the seats and all the windows. So I'm guessing this van is in about the 58 to 6,000 pound range, because it's basically bare bones. This is the 155-inch wheelbase version, so it's the long boy. You can get a shorter one, which if I was going to spec one out, I would probably go with the shortest wheelbase you can get, which I think is 133, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I would get the shortest one you could get. I would definitely get this engine. This has the 6-speed, I believe it's a 6L80 or 6L85 automatic transmission. It's kind of a bummer that they don't have the newer 10-speed as an option that you can get in the trucks, but I think this is a pretty good, it's a tried and true transmission, and the thing runs great down the road. You may hear, when I hit a couple bumps there, you might have heard like the oil can sound. That's basically because with 0 insulation along the back half of the van, everything gets a little bit wobbly as you run down the road. I'm a big fan of the Chevy vans because I'm a big fan of the Chevy engines. Ford they used to say that the Ford vans, the Econoline, was a more rugged platform than the Chevys, but nowadays they don't make that as an option anymore. They basically make a Ford front half where it's just like the front cut, where the back half is what they would use for like let's say a U-Haul van or a motorhome. They don't make a Ford Econoline like complete bodied van anymore. If you want that from Ford, you have to go to the Transit, which is not a bad van. Comes with the EcoBoost. I haven't gotten a chance to drive one super long distance, but the times that I have driven them, they're actually not too bad. But that's why I was like really excited to drive this, because it's a tried and true body style. You can either get a sliding side door or the barn doors on this side. The back is barn doors, and you can put windows in, as many windows as you want. That's the whole thing about vans, is you can upgrade any sort of every little thing that you want to add to it. You can mark a box when you're ordering it, whether you want USB plug or Bluetooth or cruise control. So all of that stuff can be added on or deleted, and which is kind of why there's such a flexible vehicle. Okay, I was going to let that guy pass me on the left, but he just blew my doors off on the right. So as much as I like the Sprinter van, I think that if I was going to build out a vehicle for overlanding, camping, towing, and using it the way that I use it, I would start with this platform, the V8 gas Chevy. The vans with the passenger vans that have all the windows down the sides, I like those, but I think if you were building something that you were going to be living out of or camping out of a lot, just for security's worth, I think I would go with this style of commercial van, and then build out the back, put in a couple windows, or order it with a few windows. Like the very back windows I would definitely add a window on the front door of the side, not the passenger door, but like the front back side door, because when I am making a left-hand turn and looking off to the right, sometimes there's not enough visibility with having that window closed. Now, I haven't tested a Mercedes Sprinter van, a Ford Transit van, or the Dodge Ram ProMaster van, but all of those vans, as far as I know, are unibody, where the Chevy van is body on frame, much like the old Econoline from Ford. And being body on frame, the benefit of that is if you want to modify things like build your own custom suspension, do a solid axle swap, it's a lot easier with a body on frame, because you have this heavy steel frame to build off of, versus a unibody where you have to tie into all this stamped sheet metal. And now, one of the things that people love about the Transit van and the Sprinter van is that high roof, and the Chevy does not offer that. There are companies in the aftermarket that offer a pop-up top for the van, but I don't know anybody that's making a high top cutout roof anymore for these vans. I know they used to. I haven't seen them on the market anymore. It might still be out there. But even to do that, you're going to have to cut a big hole in the roof, where on the Sprinter and the Transit, they already come with that high top. And I guess the ProMaster too. I haven't really heard great things about the ProMaster. It's a front wheel drive, and where the Transit from Ford and the Sprinter from Mercedes are both optional four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So, and then the Chevy is not four-wheel drive from the factory. I know they used to offer an all-wheel drive option from the factory, which I think was only in the half-ton, and now I think the only option for four-wheel drive in the Chevy van is to send it to Quigley or some other aftermarket company. The cool thing about Quigley is you can order it direct from the dealer, and it'll go straight to Quigley, and they'll do the upfit, or you can buy your own and take it to Quigley. So I think after I get home, I'll be out roughly 2,800 miles in this car, and I don't really feel too bad about it. It's loud. They did put some aftermarket shocks on, and so which it does. I mean, the tires are aired up to like 70 psi, so it runs down the road good, but it does bounce you a bit when you go through bumps. But I think the shocks are pretty good because it kind of settles it down pretty quick. So overall, I think it's a pretty good platform. I think the market for the Sprinter and the Transit type buyer may not be even looking at the Chevy. Maybe the styling is too old, and with Chevy's pledge to go all electric, I don't even know what's going to happen to the Chevy Express van in the future. But I think if right now I was looking to buy a van and build it out into like a fun adventure van, overlanding van that can also tow, this would definitely be the one I would get. You got 400 horsepower, body on frame, so you can build a custom link suspension or TTB or solid axle swap, whatever you want. Or you send it to Quigley and get their transfer case and independent front suspension put underneath it. The one thing about the Chevy, the Quigley independent front suspension, is that they don't use the 3/4 ton front differential. They actually use the 1/2 ton front differential, which I think is a packaging issue. Getting the 3/4 ton differential in the location it needs to be, it just wasn't going to fit very well. And they could have maybe modified the oil pan and other things, but they're trying to keep it as factory as possible to retain as much of the factory warranty as possible. So that's why they don't change it over to the 3/4 ton stuff, because then they would have to change oil pan and probably other issues that they didn't really want to get into. Overall, I think it's been a great trip in this van. I didn't really get to do as much camping as I had planned to because I was running such long days. So I usually would just check into a hotel and get back on the road early the next day versus finding some secluded spot to go camping, overlanding. But I'm hoping that when it's done at field, I can get my hands on it again, and maybe we can take it camping when it has the whole back all built out. It's time for me to drop off the Quigley van. I have made it to Fresno, California, and I'm going to drop it off here at Field Van. Field Van specializes in building out all types of vans. Just looking around the parking lot here, there's Sprinters and there's Transits and there's Ford Econoline vans, and they are going to go at it on the Chevy. It's been fun. It's been a big, loud metal box banging across America, and I had a blast driving it. The 6.6 V8 is a lot more power than the other van that I drove last year, and I really dig it. But it's time for this thing to go under the knife. It's going to be a full transformation, and hopefully the next time we get to drive it around, it'll be built out. It won't just be a big empty box back there. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.